Somewhere in the Roman Empire, an eagle disappeared, not a metal standard alone, but the identity of more than 5,000 soldiers, the Ninth Legion Hispana. For almost 2 centuries, its name had followed Roman armies across provinces, rebellions, and invasions. Then, early in the 2nd century, the trail breaks. No Roman historian records its final battle. No monument names the enemy that destroyed it. No surviving order explains where it went. By the time later lists of Rome's legions were carved in stone, the Ninth was simply missing. That silence created one of history's most seductive stories. The legion marched north from York into the mist of Scotland. Tribal warriors closed around it. Rome lost an entire army, concealed the humiliation, and built Hadrian's Wall to keep the killers out. It is cinematic. It is terrifying. And the evidence has never fitted as neatly as the legend. Before it became Rome's missing legion, the Ninth had already survived almost everything the empire could throw at it. Its traditions reached back to the armies of the late Republic. It campaigned in Spain, crossed into Britain during the invasion under Claudius, and spent decades forcing roads and forts into territory Rome had only begun to control. Then, in AD 60 or 61, Queen Boudica's revolt tore through the province. The Ninth marched to stop it. According to Tacitus, the legion's infantry was cut down, while its commander escaped with the cavalry. It was exactly the kind of defeat that could have ended a military unit. But Rome rebuilt it. New soldiers filled the ranks. The eagle remained. The Ninth returned to the frontier and continued fighting for another generation. That survival matters because it changes how we read the later silence. Rome did not automatically erase a legion after catastrophe. The Ninth had suffered devastation before, and its name endured. Whatever happened in the 2nd century was different. Either the losses were beyond repair, the political circumstances had changed, or the legion was deliberately dissolved for reasons no surviving source explains. The investigation begins in York in the year AD 108. Here, at Eboracum, the Ninth was not a ghost. Its soldiers were rebuilding their fortress. A stone inscription records the work under Emperor Trajan and names the legion responsible, Legio IX Hispana. This is the last secure, dated appearance of the Ninth in Britain. After that, another legion takes over York. The Ninth vanishes from the province. A few years later, Rome is fighting a serious war somewhere in Britain. Ancient sources are frustratingly vague, but the losses were severe enough to shake the empire. Then Hadrian arrives. In AD 122, construction begins on the wall that will divide Roman Britain from the unconquered north. The sequence appears almost perfect. The Ninth is recorded in York. War erupts. The Ninth disappears. A wall rises. For generations, those 4 facts were assembled into a final march. The legion was sent beyond the frontier and annihilated. The absence of a Roman account became evidence of a cover-up. The wall became a monument to defeat, but there was a hidden weakness in the story. No ancient source actually says it happened. The massacre has no known battlefield. No mass grave has been securely linked to the legion. No inscription mourns its commander. Even the date was reconstructed from silence. Then a clue appeared far from the Scottish Highlands. Across the North Sea, at Nijmegen in the Netherlands, archaeologists found objects marked with the name of the Ninth, stamped building material, and a bronze fitting bearing LEG HISP9. Suddenly, the legion seemed to have crossed the map. If those objects belonged to the period after the Ninth left Britain, then the famous Scottish destruction could not be true. The lost legion had not marched north to its death. It had been transferred east, replacing one frontier with another. This transformed the mystery. The question was no longer what killed the Ninth in Scotland. It was, where did Rome send it next? Under Hadrian, the empire was changing. Trajan had expanded Roman territory to its greatest extent, but the new emperor abandoned some conquests and strengthened defensible borders. Legions were moved like pieces across an enormous board. The 6th Legion came to Britain from the Rhine. The 9th may have moved in the opposite direction, leaving York for the region around Nijmegen. The Dutch evidence appeared to reveal the exchange. And another clue seemed to support survival. Lucius Aemilius Carus had served as a senior officer in the Ninth. His career did not end in a northern catastrophe. He continued through the imperial system and eventually governed Arabia. At the very least, the men associated with the legion were not all swallowed by a Scottish battlefield. The legend was collapsing. But the replacement theory soon developed a problem of its own. A stamped tile can prove that the Ninth's name reached Nijmegen. It cannot automatically prove that the entire legion lived there after AD 120. Roman units sent detachments across provinces. Building material could be moved or reused. Some finds may belong to a brief advance party or to soldiers operating away from the main force. Even the officer's later career proves only that he survived his time with the Ninth. It does not tell us when he left it or what later happened to the unit. The evidence had overturned certainty. It had not produced an ending. so historians followed the Legion east. One possible destination was Judea. In AD 132, the Bar Kokhba revolt erupted against Roman rule. This was not a brief uprising. Rebel forces captured territory, fortified underground complexes, and forced Rome into a brutal campaign of reconquest. Cassius Dio describes enormous destruction. Hadrian reportedly omitted the customary assurance to the Senate that he and the army were well. A legion could disappear in a war like this. The ninth is absent from later surviving legion lists. No confirmed inscription places it after the middle of the 2nd century. If it had moved from the Rhine into the Eastern Emergency, catastrophic losses might explain why Rome never rebuilt it. Another possibility lies even later. In AD 161, war broke out with Parthia. Roman forces moved through Armenia and Mesopotamia. Campaigns, disease, and distance consumed men on a vast scale. Perhaps the ninth reached the eastern provinces and died there, not in one legendary ambush, but through battle and attrition until too little remained to preserve the unit. Both theories explain the silence. Neither has the one piece of evidence the mystery demands, the ninth's name at its final battlefield. And then the investigation turned back toward Britain. In recent scholarship, the old northern theory has returned in a more careful form. Not the romantic image of a legion marching blindly into Highland fog, and not a proven massacre in Scotland, but the possibility that the ninth was destroyed or disbanded during the serious British War around the beginning of Hadrian's reign. The Nijmegen objects in this reconstruction may represent a detachment rather than the surviving legion. A small group could have been abroad while the main force suffered defeat, or the finds may not be late enough to carry the weight once placed upon them. The clue that seemed to solve the mystery may only have widened it. That is the reversal at the heart of the Ninth Legion. The Scottish legend was never established fact, but the Eastern solution is not established fact either. We know the Ninth was active at York in AD 108. We know its name appears on objects connected with the Lower Rhine. We know Rome endured major military crises in Britain and later in the East. And we know that by a later point in the 2nd century, the Ninth no longer appears among the Empire's surviving legions. Between those facts lies the disappearance. Could Rome have erased the truth? There is no evidence of a deliberate conspiracy to pretend the Ninth had never existed. Rome preserved the names of other legions that suffered disasters. It could punish a unit, disband it, merge survivors into other formations, or retire its number. Administrative silence did not require thousands of records to be destroyed. It required only that no account of the legion's final operation survived the centuries. That is less dramatic than an imperial cover-up. It is also more unsettling. The Roman Empire recorded astonishing detail, but it did not preserve everything. Most documents were written on materials that decayed. Inscriptions survived by accident. Historians selected the events they considered worth telling. A legion could serve for generations, lose one final campaign, and leave behind only scattered names in stone and clay. The Ninth may not have vanished in a single moment. Its end could have been a process. Heavy losses. Replacements that never came. Survivors reassigned. The eagle removed. The number abandoned. 5,000 men did not disappear from the earth. They disappeared from an institution, and that may be why every proposed ending feels incomplete. We keep searching for one battlefield because the legend taught us to expect a last stand. But the Roman evidence may be preserving something quieter. A military formation being reduced until, one day, officials stopped writing its name. The final answer could still be buried beneath a fort in the Netherlands, a battlefield in northern Britain, or an eastern desert. A single inscription could place the legion where no one expects it. Archaeology has already moved the Ninth across Europe once. It could do so again. Until then, the most honest conclusion is not that the mystery has been solved. It is that the famous solution was never secure. The Ninth Legion did not simply march into Scottish mist and vanish from history. Its trail fractured into competing clues: a fortress in York, military objects beside the Rhine, wars in Britain, revolts in Judea, and empty spaces in Roman lists. Each clue destroys one certainty and creates another question. That is why the Ninth still holds us. Not because Rome successfully erased an army, but because enough evidence survived to prove that the story is wrong, and not enough survived to tell us which ending is right.